Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. So, in the previous discussion, we had dealt with the fifth sutra, which is Udyamo Bhairavaha. And what is this Udyama? That it's like because you are making efforts to be in that ultimate stage, that very means, that very process of transformation or meditation is described as Bhairava. And the whole process and details we discussed in the last class. Now, that this is, there are three methods in Shiva Sutras of self realization. The most suitable and the highest order of meditation is called Sambhava Paya. Sambhava. Sambhu is Lord Shiva, Paramashiva Tattva, and you are meditating in a way which is related to that Sambhu Tattva, so it's Sambhava Paya. And this is part of that Bhairava Tantra, all of it, contemplative, meditative. It has nothing to do with any rituals or anything. So it's extremely contemplative, not in the sense of doing some intellectual meditation, but this is a complete, total immersion of our body, mind, consciousness, everything in it for the transformation. That is what we are discussing. And we have already understood what is that Paramashiva Tattva in the first, and then why we cannot reach there, and what are the Saktis and all we have discussed, and how to start the journey in the Bhairava Udyamaha. Once you, invest your attention, your interest, your dedication to that goal of having that realization, the journey starts. It's like the example which was given was that a prisoner wants to get out of a jail. He wants to do a jailbreak. The moment he conceives of this idea, the process of getting out of that place starts, not physically, but at a mental plane. Similarly, the whole process of internal transformation starts with the strength, the inculcation of the spiritual aspiration. And once you have that sankalpa, you have that determination that I want to get out of this, I want to get liberated, the process starts. Now, this sixth sutra is a very interesting sutra. This is actually Saktopaya, because it is talking about Sakti Chakra Sandhane Vishwa Sangharaha. You will be having this Bhairava Patti, realization of your Bhairava Swarupatva. What is that Bhairava? Because he protects, he destroys, he protects, he supports. That Bhairavatva Prapti. And somebody who rescues you out of these fearful entrapment called samsara. That also explains that what is this meaning of Vairava, but that end result we have to contemplate. We have had some discussion on that. To realize, to attain that Bhairavapatti stage, this particular sadhana, this particular mode of meditation is looked at by the commentators as a Saktopaya, as an aid to Sambhavopaya. It's like in Advaita Vedanta, we have Jnana Karma Krama Samuchaya. Jnana and Karma, no, they are like day and light, Shankaracharya explains. If you are doing a job and then you want to do 24-hour sadhana, they are both not possible. But then he agrees at the same time that without doing the karma, in Bhagavad Gita we have done that, without doing karma, it's very karma in what sense? Not with kamya karmas, but nishkamateya. Ishwararapam buddhya. Nishkama karma samapana is actually a pathway to cleansing of one's internal consciousness. And you do upasana and you purify, your sattva suddhi happens. And as a result of this purification of one's consciousness, a person is able to turn his attention away from the samsara in a very smooth and natural way, to be able to concentrate on the Upanishad, Mahavakyas, and the insights. And through a meditation on these insights, He will make sense of his own search for the self. You want to go to a place and you haven't been there, you don't know how to reach there. So you would have to listen to some people who will tell you how to go there. So Upanishad here gives us certain indicators, certain signages in sadhana so that we can reach there. Similarly, this verse, Sambhava Paya, when he mentioned Udyamo Bhairavaha, after that he's mentioning in this thing, how does that happen? Where to start? Okay, so it's very technical. So what he is asking us to do, Sakti Chakra Sandhani. There are three words here. One is Sakti, the other one is Chakra, another is Sandhana. Sandhana can means there are different ways the commentators have made sense of it. One is Sanyama, withdrawal, control. The another is Anusandhana. The third one is Vimarsha, meditation on it. It's like there's a magic show and you're going there and you're enjoying it. The moment you try to analyze how is that possible, that's a difficult journey. You don't enjoy that magic show. You're trying to understand how that happens. The moment you understand how that happens, you lose interest in the magic show. You would not see it again. It will not excite you. Right? So now let's come. Sandhana, we have made sense of it, right? So try to meditate on it, trying to make sense of it. What is this? Means? Yeah. So how do you make sense of it? If you remember correctly, we know that Lord Shiva, Paramashiva, has two aspects, Unmesha and Nimesha. Nimesha is kind of involution, withdrawal. Unmesha is that expansion, prachaya, prasharana. And how that happens? Just simple wish. He's not taking help of anybody, he doesn't need any material. It just is krida. Atma Gopanatmaka Krida. He hides himself and shows himself. That is what is Anava Mala. That is the mother of next two malas. Maya Mala and Karma Mala. The mother of all these malas is Anava Mala. Why? Because there is Swatyantriya Hani and Swarupa Anababodha. You forget who you are. That is like a necessary condition of this materiality which comes into picture. This material sansara comes into picture. You identify with it only when you lose sight of who you are. And then suddenly the Shiva becomes a Pashu. The Lord of the universe manifests himself as one of us with all these confusions and all that. That means that when we ascend to that plane, the way, how do you go there again now? There's a reverse process. We have discussed that the Pancha Shaktis or Lord Shiva become Pancha Kanchukas of Maya. The five veils of Maya are essentially inversion of the powers. When all these five powers, when you withdraw together, make them one, ensure that fusion, it becomes that Swatantra Shakti. That Swatantra Shakti becomes Chit Shakti, Ananda Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. There's a kind of inversion. And we have discussed that again and again earlier. And how they become veils in the sense they create limitations in the way we think about the world, which is love for all becomes love for something, interest in particular thing. Sarvagyatva becomes vidya. Your sarvakartikatva becomes kala. You are good at a particular few things. Excellence in a few things. The universal becomes particular. These reductions and limitations, we have discussed about it. Jnanam Bandha in that sutra. What he's now he's saying Sakti Chakra Sandhane in a very simple way. This is a return journey from the sansara to the self. And this return journey starts with what? No physical travel. The return journey starts if, just imagine it's like this, that you are doing an excursion or you're doing trekking. Okay. And then you remember your childhood. You ventured out of home, you are used to visit or move around your own house and that colony. So there is a garden nearby. That's your familiar terrain as a child. So imagine you're 3 and 4, you're not even 5. And once, without informing anyone, you ventured out of your house and you traveled about 3, 4, 5 kilometers. You don't know how to return. Can you reach home? It's very challenging for you. So you get really frightened. You have to actually take the help of somebody. And these days, moms make their children mug up their number. So you say, Uncle, I want to call my mom. How did you come here? No, no, I was just walking. I forgot I don't know how to return. So he makes a call, and that's how you can talk to your mom. Then you get a shouting when you go home, depending on your age. Now, this is an aspirational return home. There is no mom or dad. Of course, they are there. The mom as the dad is same, because there is no Shiva without Shakti, no Shakti without Shiva. That source of us. So we want to return to our source. Exactly same situation. The way as a child we get waylaid not by somebody else, but by our own desire to explore the world. Here, similarly, to experience samsara, we get waylaid, we get misled by our own sanskaras and purva papas and punyas. We want to return to the source. Then he's saying you have to do that Sakti Chakra Sandhana. This is not a very simplistic thing. What is this chakra? These powers, these Saktis, which is originally Swatyantra Sakti, then it becomes fivefold Sakti, and there is a descent of that supreme divine power into different levels of materiality and manifestation, from the subtlest, where there is no distinction or difference between Shiva and a Shakti. What is the moment of creation? The apparent distinction between Shiva and Shakti. They're always one, but there is a kind of distinction, and therefore the Shiva gets trapped in this whole creation. The idea gets trapped in its own creation. Then he returns, and there is no distinction. And then that, of so far Supreme Lord is concerned, it happens normally with him. He creates and he destroys. But this particular thing is not mentioned not for Lord Shiva, but for us. We want to return home. Then he's saying you have to understand how that has happened. What does it mean that from verse number, the sutra number 1, formula number 1, up till now, we have come? How do we return to the source is the challenge. That is the major challenge. How do we return to the source? So he's saying that Sakti Chakra, that particular energy which lights up everything. Chakra is like a circle, right? We have already mentioned, you have the Banamatrika Ju studies that are Ashtavargas. The Mahalakshmi or Maheshwara is one, and there other 7 Vargas are there. We have understood them, how the supreme power devolves to different levels of lesser subtlety and more gross appearance, and they become evident. They attain name and form. They appear to be multiple. They appear to be different from each other. All these that we see in this whole samsara, whether it's a rose plant or a tulsi plant or a big tree, banyan tree, or river, or mountain, a little smiling baby, or a very sick patient, a young man full of enthusiasm, or a person going through a midlife crisis, or an old man who is reading some philosophy book and relaxing, ready to leave, all these are essentially manifestations of that supreme spiritual power of Paramashiva. Now, to return to the self, you don't have to shoot down everything and set fire to this whole samsara. Like in Advaita Vedanta, from the appearance, from the snake you'll travel to the rope. What appears like a snake is not a snake, so he will reject the appearance and return to the adhisthana, the foundation, the substratum, and that is Brahman. So there is no more any fear, because there is that fundamental Chaitanya. You are no different from it. That is their prakriya. It's called prakriya in technical way. What is the method of meditation? That is their method of meditation. In Shiva Sutra, they have their own theory of creation, how creation happens, what is Paramashiva Tattva, what are the Saktis, Pancha Saktis, and what are the Pancha Kanchukas of the Maya. What are the veils? So we want to reverse order, we want to move back to the source. Therefore, he's mentioned that you have to do Sakti Chakra Sandhana. You do that meditation. That is what he is mentioning. Then you will have Vishwa Sanghara. Now, let me clarify these two words. What do you mean by Vishwa Sanghara? Now, return to that example of the magic show. How do you destroy the magic? By understanding how that happens. Once we understand how a certain, you know, the sleight of hand or whatever you call it, is able to do it. He's materializing a cat out of a handkerchief. People are clapping, they are scared how that happens. If you look at the AGT, have that Korean boy, or there are a few wonderful magicians. If you watch them in AGT, you really get flabbergasted how creative they are. How can they do it? How does that happen? But they are not dealing with spirits. For all you know, they have worked on these and they are possible. They appear as if they happen the way we see it, but they do not happen the way we see it. The magician sees them differently, we see them differently. That is the whole secret of Vedanta. God doesn't see samsara the way we see it, therefore, He is God and we are human beings all the time in trouble. He is not in trouble. For Him, it's a game, or Paramashiva. So you do Sakti Chakra Sandhana, then what happens? Vishwa Sanghara. And what is this Vishwa Sanghara? The world gets destroyed? No. The enchantment, the frustration, the anxieties that you experience in the samsara will cease to hold any meaning for you, because when you realize that they have manifested, they have emanated from that source which is Paramashiva, and you are able to do that prakriya, the mathematical derivation. Sometimes as children, you remember, the answer in trigonometry or something, you're doing some maths. The answer, how to get it. You see the answer sheet, last page of the book. But do you score any marks? No. They will ask, how do you reach there? So you have to mention, you have to lay out this whole formula, the derivation. So now here is a reverse journey. You remember in trigonometry school what we used to do? LHS equal to RHS, right? From left hand side to right hand side. So there'll be some formula written, some equation on this side. Then you will try changing it, and then you'll break it and you'll make it equal to the RHS. Then you'll write LHS equal to RHS. This Sakti Chakra Sandhana is RHS to LHS. You are seeing the whole material universe before you. You are traveling backwards. So the way you broke that equation, now you are reverse breaking it, and you're going back to that original thing. It's a game, but it's a game as an example. It doesn't happen like that, because we would never be able to see the moment we are going up. Like if you're doing trekking, there are certain distances you will cover very easily. But when you're doing mountaineering, when you rise up and up, it becomes more and more difficult. The body experiences a lot of strain. Similarly, in this process of sadhana, the higher we go, the reality becomes subtler. The game is very tricky. The risks are very high. You want self realization. One distraction, you're gone. So you're returning. So that Vishwa Sanghara happens when you realize that this whole sansara, Paramashiva, withdraws his own energies. These energies which are seen as different from Lord Shiva, when as a meditator you realize that no, all that happening around me, for example, are actually. So there are some beautiful sentences in the commentary, and I'll go there so as to make it a little more, we'll put it in a context. So, having made that initial introduction about how to understand it, let's look at the Khyamaraja, this commentary. and we will sort of try to make sense of it. So, first thing is saying Sakti Chakra Sandhane Vishwa Sangharaha. So, how does he make it say that this is doesn't mean that the universe comes to an end, but the universe as universe outside of the existence of that pure consciousness doesn't make any sense, because the samsara is an expansion of that Shiva consciousness. Once you realize the unity of the outside and the inside, the matter and consciousness, the external world and the internal universe of that pure consciousness, you are done. There's no problem. Now you look at how beautifully Shamaraja writes in this Vimarshini, Yo ayam paraprativa unmajanatma udyantrita swabhava bhairava uktaha. Unmajana, we have mentioned that, and that udyantrita. So, that whole consciousness, that pure consciousness, in the previous sutra, Udyama Bhairavaha, we have mentioned. That Bhairava, Uktaha, Asya Eva, Antarlakhya Vahir Drishti. Remember, this thing would be most interesting even in your common everyday life if you can make sense of this particular word. I liked it a lot. Antarlakhya Vahir Drishti. You are engaging with the external world. You're using your naked eyes to look at the external world and you're traveling. But you have Antaralaksha. You're doing everything, but you're meditating on yourself. You're returning. Antarlaksha. Vahirdishthyatmataya. With that particular focus, Nissesa Sakti Chakra. Without leaving anything, they are doing Sakti Chakra Sandhana. What is Sakti Chakra is mentioning? Krama Krama, Krama Kramino. Krama, Akrama, Kramakrama. All these three, if you take. What is Krama Sadhana? There is a Kali Krama. Krama Sadhana is gradually, we have already discussed that earlier. Sometimes you have Krama Srishti. Certain times students ask this question. In Drishti Srishtivada, the sansara is a product of ignorance, Shastra says. Because of ignorance, sansara, what is the cause? Ignorance. Then in Upanishads and other texts, they also again mention how the Param Brahma becomes Ishvara with Maya Upadhi. And then what happens? He says Hiranya Garbha is created by Ishvara, is the Karya Brahma, is the first work of God, is Hiranya Garbha or Prajapati. Then all the Pancha Tanmatras are also created. So Hiranya Garbha, he is to deal with what? The Pancha Tanmatras, Mana and Buddhi. These things are there. And Ahankara is himself. He himself says that let me be many. Ekena na ramate, ekaki na ramate. One cannot be in love when he is alone. He feels lonely. So Hiranyagarbha starts creation, this whole process. Aham bahushyam prajayeya. So let me be many, let me create these people. Then he starts creation, and we have done in Tattvabodha also in the earlier text when we did in Vivekashwaramani, how this whole Srishti happens. So first there's Akasha, there's Panchatanmatras are there. And from these Panchatanmas, the Apanchikrita Mahabhutas, from their Sattvangsha, you have the five Jnanendriyas. Akasha has to do with Shravanendriya. So all this happens. And similarly, you have these Tanmatras, these Sukshma Bhutas, Apanchikrita Sukshma Bhutas. From their Rajasikangsha, you have the Karmendriyas. Okay. And then you have also Pancha Pranas. All these are created from Rajasikangsha. And Tamasikangsha, you have the Annamaya Kosha. You have these Pancha Bhutas which get created once they become Panchikrita. And from this Panchikrita Mahabhuta, you have the Annamaya Kosha. This whole detail, then you have Annamaya Kosha, and then Pranamaya Kosha, which is Karmendriyas plus Pancha Pranas. Then you have the Manomaya Kosha and the Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya Kosha. All these levels, 5 seats. Now all this is this Krama. First Akasha how the Panchikanas takes place. You have first Akasha, and from Akasha, Vayu comes, and then it will have the quality of both Akasha and Vayu, because Karana Guna will be there in Karya Guna. So Shavada is the Akasha Guna, which will also be there in Vayu. So in Vayu, you have Sparsha plus Savada. Then it becomes Teja, fire. So you will have Sparsha, you will have Savada plus Rupa, it has color. But first two, Nirupa, and then you go down, then Jala. So it will have the causes, the previous ones, the causal qualities. What are these? Savada, Sparsha, Rupa. These three plus what is the special quality of Jala? That Rasha. So it has the Rasha. And then you go down, then you have Prithvi. All these four elements will be there. Savada, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasha, then Prithvi, Gandha. All five qualities there. That is how Krama Srishti happens. But there is a Akrama Srishti, Sakshat Srishti, what is Ajnana. So, at one way, you are seeing that it is instantly created because of Ajnana. The other one is because of Krama Srishti. Similarly, when you are doing sadhana to return, there is a Krama sadhana and there is a Akrama sadhana. Akrama sadhana is what we did, that Udyama Bhairava. Instantly you are able to reach there because of the highest quality that you have as a student or a practitioner, and then the grace of your Adhisthatri Devata, your Ishta Devata, or mostly importantly, your Guru. So he's saying Krama, Akrama, Krama, Kramini, Atikranta, Krama, Krama, Atirikta, Rikta. Atirikta. You see, this is a very interesting word. You have to make sense of it. When you want to go up, if you have ever done trekking on a mountainous range, what you are carrying is very heavy. So you consume some dry fruits or whatever, but you throw a lot of things that you have. Becomes very difficult for you to carry. Similarly, when you are withdrawing all your powers, when you're withdrawing, I mean, if you look at an officer at a middle level, he has so many people to assist him and blah blah blah. You look at the CEO, he doesn't carry any files or anything. Others carry files. He doesn't. His office is very clean and simple. They are somewhere else. His room is simple. Similarly, when Shiva withdraws his powers, that means he is discarding the details to be more of himself, the purity of himself. So, what he's saying, Ati Rikta, that means Ati Shunya, Arikta, but also Purna at the same time. That is the beauty of this double aspect of it. What is Shiva? Unlike in Advaita Vedanta, Bhagavan in Shiva Advaita is Vishwamaya Vishwotirna. He's beyond the samsara, Vishwatita. Also at the same time, Vishwamaya. He's everywhere, permeating everything, transcending everything. Therefore, Rikta Rikta. Arikta means he's immanent still. This whole samsara. But that's why Bahidrishtir Antarlakshya. These are these words, dialectical expressions, if you look at this. Ubhayatmatayapi, both ways, Purna and Apurna, both. He's saying, Avidhyamanapi, though it is described, this Swatantra Sakti, Anitad Rupa, it is described as these Pancha Saktis, but it is not these Pancha Saktis. Why? It is Swatantra Sakti. Anuttara, it is absolute. There is nothing more than that. Para, that is Paravak, Swatantra Sakti hi kapi asti. There is what Swatantra Sakti? Yaya, by which Shobhito, in its own foundation, Mahullasat, starting with these 36 tattvas, Ullasat from Prithvi Tattva till Paramashiva, the ultimate thing, Prabhriti, Parapramatri, Vishramti, Vishrantyantam. Parapramati is that Paramashiva. When you reach there, so he's saying, Srimas Srustyadi Sakti Chakra Spharanatma, that Sakti Chakra which has spread out. Krida Ayam, that is a Adarsita, that whatever you see. Tasya etad, what is, Tasya etad avhasitasya Sakti Chakrasya Rahasya, then you know what you are saying, that whatever the secrets you're unraveling. And this printing, what does it say? Just a minute. Rahasyamnaya amnayatita amnataniyatya yat sanghatam yathochita krama vimarshanam tasmin. And then you yathochita, the way it is required, you do that meditation, contemplation on it, sati. Then he mentions kalagnadir charama kalantasya. Starting from Kalagni, there is a Kalagni Rudra. We will go into details of that. Starting from Kalagni Rudra, who lives in the Prithvi Tattva, until the Parama Shiva, Vishwasya Sangharo, Dehatmataya, Bahyatayata, Avasthitasyapi, Satah Parasambid, Agni, Parasambid Agni, Sadbhava Bhavati Ityarthaha. So just make simple thing, to make it very simple thing, that this particular contemplation or meditation on this whole thing, the return journey starts. And whether you have that succession, process of succession, krama, or non-succession, simultaneously do it, akrama, you transcend all that. You are empty and you are full at the same time. Empty of the details, but full, because all these energies are still within you. You're not throwing them away. They are getting dissolved in you because you are the source of all that. And that's Swatantra Sakti, because Sakti is actually Swatantra Sakti. And then because Shiva becomes aware of his own thing, that Sandhana is when you do Anveshana. It's like you have a bag in which you have kept a lot of credit cards and a lot of documents. You are on a travel trip and you're going somewhere, and suddenly you get into a mode of anxiety thinking, do I have the passport in the right place? Do I have that traveler's check? Do I have that card, this card, all that? And you have to meet some people. So certain addresses you had, do I have those visiting cards? And you suddenly become anxious. Then sitting at the airport, you pull that bag again, and then you start opening and checking all these book, bag, and then you find that okay, everything is in place. What happens here? You had them, now you remembered, you verified, and then you are reunited, which you already had. So this union is just metaphoric. This is to indicate that you become self-aware, that you have all these means of completing your tasks. Now returning to this, what we are discussing, this reunion with your self-awareness, that is what happens when you do Sakti Chakra Sandhana, and in an appropriate manner, which is actually described. And there are two ways. Shyamaraja, for example, at one place, Abhinava Gupta also says, no, I'm not going to tell you the details. Why? Because the details are supposed to be told by the teachers. That is a problem with that tradition. Everything is not documented. A lot of things will be mentioned, a lot of things shall not be mentioned. They'll be kept a secret to be transferred to the student. When he becomes an intern apprentice, during that apprenticeship period with you, you will pass over that with direct, guidance and help and stuff like that. But there's a flip side to it, that many of the secrets were lost in history. The better side is that when there were foreign attacks, they burned the books in Nalanda and all. They could not destroy our spiritual traditions, because this is a human tradition. This is an oral tradition. This is a living tradition. So the guru and shishya will vanish to the forest, go somewhere, live in disguise, whom to kill. These are extremely difficult to kill these people because they're carrying these secrets. But now the problem is, if somebody stops practicing it, then you don't find somebody who can. If today you are looking who can teach me, if you look at any of the centers on Kashmiri Saivism, you are mostly professors. The gurus who are doing this, no, they are not around. Because where do they live, and whether the tradition, because tradition also requires a bit of safety and security, that vanished from Kashmir Valley, and with that a lot of these gurus and sadhakas also vanished. But anyway, so he's mentioning that particular Kalagni. So the whole material universe loses its significance because it becomes one and the same with that particular internal real consciousness, out of which this is an outpouring. That is what has manifested out of it. Okay. Now, he's giving a few examples. Mrutyum cha kalam cha, kala kalapam, mrutyum cha kalam cha. Time, sorry, death and the spirit of death, kala. Kala kalapam and everything. Bikara jalam, this network of connect, these the knowledge, the network of all changes, bikara jalam. Pratiprati satmyam. So what do you have? The identification with knowledge of objects and multiple of thoughts, everything. Ekatmya nanatmya. So, it's one or you many, you sort of ekatmya nanatmya vikalpa jatam tadacha sarva kabali karoti. Now try to think about this. What is this samsara? How we get trapped? Look at it from the level of your own consciousness. We are fragmented, we are all over this place. There are endpoints, the beginning points. And then sometimes we see unity, sometimes we see diversity. Sometimes these diversities are united at a higher plane. All that, when you have a proper understanding, you can take control of everything. Similarly, he's giving another technique how to meditate on it. Yatra sarve layam yanti, where everything that we see, you try to meditate on it. Dahyante tattvas sanchayaha. All that, all these tattvas that you see, they're born to pieces, not materially. The details are understood in the light of their supreme unity. You see the interrelations. Our problem is that we're dealing with office and home and this and that. The idea is to be able to integrate everything. Whom you call there are a lot of gurus, but why people were rushing to Ramakrishna? Sometimes I'm thinking he didn't have a university degree. But Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagara, Keshava Chandra Sen, the two luminaries of that time, they were running to him for discussion, for advice. Why? He had that vision of unity and integration, which could quickly synthesize things without getting into the details. He for sure wasn't an intellectual. If you read the Kathamrita, when he asks about logic, and there is one intellectual who starts talking about it, he says, I'm losing sense, I'm losing interest. What is this? Stop it. He has no interest in all these academic debates and deductive logic, inductive logic. What is it all about? He hears a little, loses interest. Why is he not interested? One can say because he was not educated, he didn't understand. No, he understood the unity of everything, and he was not fascinated by the micro details of it. It's like a CEO who's coming to the office, and there is this one guy who's handling one department. You go to government offices, the clerks are most difficult people to deal with because their power starts and ends at that particular square where they're sitting. And they will be very, they will say, no, this can't happen, that can't happen, all kinds of things. Then the CEO comes, what happened? He's saying, sir, he's requesting this to happen. Okay, do it. Put up the file in 2 minutes. He doesn't understand how that can be done because it's the boss who puts up the file. Matter ends. It can be done because he has that capacity to see that these micro details are completely irrelevant. He's the maker of all the rules for that company. He's the boss. He's the owner. So he is keeping what do you call, what is the mission statement? He has the big picture before him. He's not lost in leaves. He's not counting leaves. He's looking at the forest. He has that big picture, as they call it in management. Similarly, here saying survey yatra survey layam janti, what? You have the big picture, so details lose their importance. Tam chittim pasya kayastham kalanala samatvisham. What is that kalanala samatvisham? It's very beautiful. Kala Nala, that fire of that Kala, that Rudra which is lit up with the glow, which has that glow. Kayastam, and then you know it's there within you. Meditate and observe that divine consciousness, which is present in your body. You know, he's trying to explain that which kind of it with the glow of Kalagni Rudra, which is there in the Prithvi Tattva, in which all things are dissolved and the multitude of elements are burnt not literally. The details lose their hold over us because we are returning to the original things. And the best book, of course, I mean, that is a difficult text, the Sri Malini Vijayottara Tantra. The Malini text is the highest level of meditation. So Abhinavagupta is quoting that, and Shemaraj also quotes, Uchchara Rahitam Vastu Chetaseva Vichintayan. Uchchara Rahitam. You are not speaking about it. You are not doing mantra sadhana or sounds and texts and all that. How do you meditate on Paramashiva? That's that particular Sachidananda Swarupa. Cheta Saiva, which in you see, you have that Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, Para. How do you mention the ultimate level? You're ascending to higher planes where the names and forms of varnas and mantras, they're gone. You are no more even mentally thinking about the mantra. You are not meditating, you're chanting anything. You are directly focusing and meditating on that Paramashiva Tattva. Chetasa eva, only by your young samavesam apnoti, that particular samavesha, sambhava samavesha, apnoti saktaha sotra vidiyate. That sakto upaya is mentioned here. And why that sakto upaya is mentioned here? He's saying, why? क्योंकि ये साक्तोपाय के माध्यम से सांभोपाय जो उद्यम भैरव करके जो सूत्र रहा, when we are meditating on that udyama bhairava, when we do this meditation, that saktopaya, we would be able to reach that parama shiva tattva iti uktya etad eva bhangya nirupitam. This is the style in which this has been mentioned. Etadcha Sadguru Charana Upasanaya, then he's making it very clear that on your own, that Udyama Bhairava also they had mentioned, okay, without the grace of a Acharya or Guru, very difficult to reach there. Therefore, he's saying that also with the grace of the Guru, Avivyakta, Avivyakti, Maya, so Etacha Sadguru Charana Upasanaya, through the Upasana of the Sadguru Charana, Avivaktim Ayati iti na atikam. Then he's saying, I am not further writing anymore because the rest you will get from the acharyas. This is about the Hyamaraja's commentary. Okay. And so we will, there are a couple of others, Bharadaraja views and the Abhinava Gupta's views and a couple of other people have also commented on it, and we'll sort of stretch it a little and meditate on it in the next class. So I have also decided that we can reduce the time span to 45 minutes for that. But today it was a little delayed.